Story 1. On soup in a time, there was a man in Hunan province who could recall the memories of his past 3 lifetimes. In his first life, he held the position of a county magistrate and was an examiner for the provincial examination. While grading the examination papers, he disqualified a scholar named Xing Yutang. Feeling bitter and indignant, Xing Yutang died. Upon arriving in the underworld, he presented his case against the man who had wronged him. His complaint resonated with the numerous unjustly deceased souls who had suffered the same fate, and they elected Xing Yutang as their leader. They rallied together, sometimes gathering and sometimes dispersing, collectively crying out for justice. The uproar caught the attention of the underworld authorities, who arrested the man for questioning. The man was questioned by the king of the underworld, who asked him why he had favored mediocre talents over outstanding ones in his role as an examiner. The man tried to shift the blame onto his superiors, claiming he was merely following orders. The king of the underworld issued a decree to arrest the chief examiner as well. After a while, the chief examiner was captured and questioned. He argued that while he was responsible for the overall decisions, the individual examiners under him didn't recommend the better essays, so how could he have seen them? The king of the underworld decided that both of them were responsible and should be punished equally. They were sentenced to receive a whipping. As they were about to be whipped, Xing Yutang felt that the punishment was too light, and demanded their eyes be gouged out for their failure to distinguish between good and bad essays. The other souls echoed his sentiment. The king of the underworld was reluctant but agreed under the pressure of their collective demand. The executioners removed their robes and used sharp knives to cut open their chests. Both men were drenched in blood, screaming in agony. The other souls cheered, relieved that their grievances were finally being avenged. Afterward, the souls dispersed. The man, after undergoing the brutal punishment, was reborn in a commoner's family in Shaanxi. When he reached his 20s, a band of bandits took him hostage during a local uprising. The government troops eventually quelled the rebellion and captured many prisoners, including the man. The man wasn't worried, believing he could explain his innocence during interrogation. However, when he arrived in court, he saw that the judge was a man in his 20s. Upon closer examination, he recognized him as Xing Yutang from his previous life. He panicked, thinking, "This time I'm done for." Indeed, all the prisoners were released except for the man, who was sentenced to execution. After his death, he arrived in the underworld and filed a complaint against Xing Yutang. The king of the underworld, however, decided to delay his judgment. 30 years passed before Xing Yutang was finally brought to trial. This time, the two confronted each other face to face. Xing Yutang was sentenced to be an animal for his arbitrary killing, while the man who had wronged him was found to have beaten Xing Yutang's parents. Their punishments were deemed equal, and since Xing Yutang feared revenge in his next life, he chose to be reborn as a small dog, while the man chose to be reborn as a large dog. As a large dog, the man often scavenged for food in the streets of Shanshan Prefecture. One day, while lying on the street, he encountered a visitor from the south, carrying a small golden-haired dog that was about the size of a cat. The man recognized that this was Xing Yutang transformed. Believing he could easily overpower the small dog, the large dog pounced to bite. However, the small dog fiercely fought back and bit the large dog's throat, clinging like a bell around the large dog's neck. The large dog shook, wriggled, and barked in pain. Bystanders couldn't separate them, and both dogs died simultaneously. In the underworld, both dogs arrived at the courthouse to plead their cases to the king of the underworld. They argued endlessly, each presenting their side of the story. The king of the underworld intervened, saying that their cycle of vendetta was endless. He decided to mediate the situation and ruled that Xing Yutang would be reborn as the son-in-law of the man in his next life. The man was reborn in Shandong's Qingyun County and eventually had a daughter. The local gentry sought to marry his daughter, but he refused. Later, Xing Yutang, who had become a scholar, visited the man and was treated kindly. The man learned that Xing Yutang was single and arranged for his daughter to marry him. Over time, they mended their relationship and lived in harmony. Story 2. In first life, a man could recall his past 3 lives. He and his deceased relative, Hu Wenbi, both passed the imperial examination in the same year and had vivid discussions about their past lives. He claimed that his first life was as a local gentry with questionable morals who lived to the age of 62. When he first met the king of the underworld, he was treated with respect and offered tea. Suspicious of the tea's clarity, he poured it under the table, pretending to drink it. When his past misdeeds were revealed, he was punished to become a horse in the afterlife. However, he resented being a horse and eventually chose to die by jumping off a cliff. In his second life, he was punished to be a dog. He endured the suffering and eventually chose to die again by attempting suicide. He was reborn as a snake in his third life and survived by eating fruits. However, he felt guilty about his past actions and wished to die. He decided to end his life by jumping off a cliff and was reborn as a snake once more. Finally, in his fourth life, he was reincarnated as a human. He warned people to use saddles when riding horses and not to use their legs, to kick the horse's belly, as it was more painful than whipping. The storyteller remarked that within animals, there were distinguished individuals who had suffered injustices across 3 lifetimes due to one mistake. They were met with appropriate justice from the king of the underworld, but such wrongs were widespread. The storyteller wondered if all beloved sons-in-law in the human world were the reincarnations of souls seeking revenge for their grievances in the underworld.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.